Imagine booking a luxurious 5-star hotel suite with the woman you swore you'd never get caught with, your secret mistress, only to have your entire world collapse in a single heartbeat. The door swings open, and standing there is not a waiter, not a stranger, not even your worst enemy, but your own wife. Except she's not just your wife anymore. She's the new owner of the very hotel you thought would be your perfect hiding place. In that instant, every lie you ever told, every excuse you ever made, and every betrayal you thought you'd buried rises to the surface. This is not just a story about infidelity. It's about power, dignity, and a woman who turned heartbreak into empire. Stay with me, because what happens next will shock you, break you, and inspire you all at once. Armin was the kind of man people envied at first glance. Sharp suits, polished shoes, an expensive watch glinting under restaurant chandeliers. He lived the life of a self-made businessman. At least, that's how he wanted the world to see him. Behind the curtain, however, much of his empire rested on loans, appearances, and one dangerous addiction: his mistress, Sanya. She was young, beautiful, and reckless. The complete opposite of his wife, Ayesha, who had stood by him for 15 years, sacrificing her own dreams so he could build his. Ayesha was not just a wife, she was his partner in everything. She had given up her career in finance to raise their 2 children, manage their home, and support Armin through sleepless nights when he was just starting out. But as Armin's wealth grew, so did his arrogance. The quiet dinners with Ayesha turned into late-night meetings that never ended. The simple gifts she used to cherish were replaced by silence, excuses, and eventually, absence. One Friday evening, Armin told Ayesha he was flying to Karachi for an urgent client meeting. In reality, he had booked a suite in a newly renovated 5-star hotel in Lahore, somewhere no one would suspect. His plan was perfect, he thought. The room was luxurious, with silk sheets, city lights glowing outside, and champagne on ice. Sanya laughed as she threw herself on the king-sized bed, calling it their little heaven. But heaven was about to turn into hell, because at that very moment, Ayesha was arriving at the same hotel, not as a guest, not as a visitor, but as the new owner. After years of being ignored, dismissed, and betrayed, Ayesha had quietly invested her savings, her inheritance, and her intelligence into ventures Armin never cared to ask about. One of those ventures had led her to buy a controlling stake in the very hotel where her husband was playing out his lies. When she walked through the grand lobby, dressed in a navy blue suit that radiated power, the staff bowed slightly, whispering, "That's Madame Ayesha, the new owner." She smiled politely, but inside she carried the pain of a woman who had cried herself to sleep too many nights. This hotel wasn't just a business move, it was her statement. Ayesha was no longer the woman waiting at home for scraps of love. She was reclaiming her life. Upstairs, Armin heard a knock on the suite door. He smirked, assuming it was room service. He swung it open casually, only to feel his entire world crash. His jaw locked, his throat went dry. Because standing there, with the hotel keycard in hand and authority blazing in her eyes, was Ayesha. For a moment the silence was louder than any scream. Sanya froze on the bed, clutching the sheets to cover herself. Armin stammered, "Ayesha, I can explain." But deep down, he knew explanations were useless. His wife didn't look like she wanted answers. She looked like she finally had them. Ayesha didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She didn't collapse like Armin had expected. Instead, she stepped inside, her heels clicking against the marble floor, and said calmly, "So this is where all those late-night meetings happen." Her words cut sharper than a knife. Armin tried to reach for her hand, to speak, to soften the moment, but Ayesha pulled away. "Don't," she said. "You've had your chances." Then, turning to Sanya, she added, "You can leave. This is between me and my husband." Sanya, humiliated and trembling, slipped out of the suit without a word. The room shrank, the air suffocating. Armin pleaded, "It was a mistake. I was weak. You mean everything to me?" But Ayesha's eyes, once filled with love, now carried the weight of betrayal and the strength of someone reborn. "You don't get to define what I mean anymore," she replied. "You built this empire on lies, Armin, and while you were busy chasing shadows, I was building something real." She pulled out a folder from her bag and tossed it onto the glass table. The hotel's ownership documents lay there, signed and sealed. "This," she said firmly, "is mine. I no longer wait at home wondering where you are. I no longer cry myself to sleep. I don't belong in your shadow anymore. This is my world now." Armin sank into a chair, his arrogance crumbling into disbelief. For the first time, he wasn't the powerful one in the room. His wife, the woman he had underestimated, was now stronger than he had ever imagined. The following weeks became a storm. Word spread quickly about Ayesha's rise as a hotel owner and investor. She was invited to interviews, praised as a role model, and respected in circles that once ignored her. Meanwhile, Armin's business began to collapse, partly from his debts, but mostly because he no longer had Ayesha's quiet, unacknowledged strength holding him up. But here's the twist: Ayesha didn't destroy him completely. She could have, but she didn't. Instead, she gave him one final chance, not as her husband but as the father of their children. She told him, "You can choose to rebuild your life with integrity, or you can keep sinking into the lies you've created. But understand this, I will rise, with or without you." Armin wept for the first time in years. He realized too late that the greatest treasure he had was not the mistress he chased, but the wife he betrayed, and Ayesha. She walked out of that hotel suite taller than ever, her head high, her heart finally free. Her story became a reminder that betrayal does not define you, but what you build from its ashes does. This story isn't just about a cheating husband or a broken marriage. It's about strength, dignity, and self-respect. Ayesha's journey shows us that when the world tries to break you, you can rise higher than ever before. Betrayal may hurt, but it can also push you toward the life you truly deserve.